I'm here with Tony Cheesebuorough. Hi, Tony.
Hello, how are you?
And Tony sent me a text last night. I was at home bored. It's Friday night, and I'm thinking, God, I can't listen to these TV shows anymore. And I suddenly get this ding, and it's a text from Tony saying, hey, I'm down at the Noodle. Got someone I want you to meet. Come down. I said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And so here we are the day after. I'm in Tony's studio, and I'm with Joe Cannatelli. And Joe, why don't you say hi to all our listeners on GloTIME Radio?
Greetings to everyone out there on GloTIME Radio. It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's a pleasure for us to have met up. We met last night, and we were just mesmerised by a guitarist that knew Tony.
He used to be my guitar player.
He used to be your guitar player? Oh my God, Tony. He can play notes faster than anyone can think on the planet.
Oh, he's a beast.
What was his name?
Patrick Casey Harshbarger.
Patrick Casey Harshbarger.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so I'm here with Joe, and the fascinating thing is that Joe has a recording studio, and Joe has been a music producer or a record producer for many, many years. Where is that based, Joe?
That's fair enough. We're just outside of Boston. We're 30 miles north of Boston in a small called West Newbury.
Okay.
But obviously it's much easier to say from Boston
Mm-hmm.
when you travel, and we bring a lot of people back from all over the world, far away as Australia to right up the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest attraction for a lot of folks today that make the jaunt and make the journey over to see me is the spin that it creates when they go back home. So little Johnny Smith on the corner of First and Main, my little hometown, no big deal that he comes to my studio, so it would be tough for little Johnny Smith to get that spin. But for John Smith that lives in Melbourne, Australia, the journey to Boston, when he returns back home, all of a sudden everyone's very interested. Oh, what's going on? What did you do in Boston? What brought you there? And the younger kids are starting to appreciate that more and more, and we're getting more and more people that are making the journey.
And I was saying to you after you left last night, we were there till 3:30 in the morning doing Guess This Tune, and there's the bounce at everybody, and Marty is built huge.
Yes.
And suddenly there's this old mamas and papas and stuff like that, and I see his huge head appear from behind the bar, and he says, okay, Tony, what's that one? And I said, it's mamas and papas. Well, that's easy. And so then he comes out with some old birds. It was a good night. So we left there at about 3:35 this morning.
What a great venue, though.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
Man,
Oh,
it
the
really
Slippery
is.
Noodle, yeah. So, Joe, how long have you had your, how did you get started in wanting to go into the production side of music?
Well, it was out of necessity, really. Back in the day, like all of us, I had my own little band, and the colossal cost of going to the studio and producing a record back in the day. We had to figure out a way to do it more economically, and that's exactly what I did. We started with some cassette multi-track recorders. I learned how to bounce. Fortunately enough, I was allowed to intern with one of the studios that my band went to and recorded with, and I begged and pleaded, can I come please and just be the fly in the wall, and I'll do anything, clean your floor, empty your trash, tidy up after you. And he taught me quite a bit. So I took those few little skills that he gave me, and I brought them back home, and I exercised those skills, and I said, man, this is something that I really want to do. And then when I discovered that I could literally play all the instruments in a particular band myself, like you do at home, Tony, when you're working here, and you can create a song from scratch all by yourself and play these different instruments. And there's a wonderful tool that we all use called a sequencer. That unbelievable. As long as you put in the proper time signature, you can literally hunt and peck your way through the keyboard, and you can construct a song, so you don't have to be incredibly articulate on the piano. But with the sequencer, what a fabulous, it was a whole new world, and it exploded for me. So I was able to sit down and I was able to write. It was never enough. There was always another piece of gear that you discover. I need this, I need that, or a new microphone, because every microphone has
and a different sound.
Oh, absolutely.
Like guitars. Like guitars.
Like guitars. That's why. Yeah. By the way, everybody, I'm sitting in a guitar museum. I think Tony must have about 50 or 60 guitars of every different style. So if anyone doesn't have an idea that Tony's a musician, he's.
Oh, you can tell just by
yes, you
no
can.
Question about it.
So then you were telling me about, you then decided you wanted to do this really professionally.
Absolutely. So we got married, came time to build a home for ourselves, and what I did was went to an architect, and first thing I did with the architect is let's make an incredible recording space. So we built my house around this incredible recording space. And
so you built the studio, designed the studio first.
I told the wife it was going to be our living room, but she didn't realize it was going to be our make-a-living room.
And she's still married to you despite that.
She's still married to me after all the countless 24-hour days and everything else. But it came to a point where it got in the way of raising a family, and so it was time to move on and get a standalone facility. We went off and we bought our building, we retrofitted it, got our studio rolling. I ran into a problem with session musicians, trying to get them scheduled because they all had day jobs and their hours were very erratic. It became a problem. And plus, where you're just single-minded as far as recording goes, it forces you to be very mercenary. You're really watching the dollars and cents. It's not really in me. So we said, okay, what can we do to manage this? What about a music school? So it came up a conversation between me and one of my engineers. That can help take care of our overhead. And it'll satisfy having our session musicians in the building.
So you started a music school, really, to try and breed your own session.
Well, yes. So I reached out to my session musicians who had other day jobs or were outside the music business and I made the pitch. I said, what do you think about opening up a music school? I'll give you the best tools that we can possibly get, and we'll see how it flies.
Speaking of guitars.
Yeah.
On the Fringe studio.
Yeah, and we didn't say the name of it. I saw something on Facebook. I did have a look at and there's a wall of guitars there.
There's actually several walls of guitars.
So do they come and play them?
They really are. Well,
can I borrow this one?
Your average artist is going to show up, with his favorite guitars and everything else, but you'll come to a specific section in the song where they're just searching for a particular sound that they're looking for.
And you say, well, that one there will do it.
Or it'll give them an opportunity to grab something and go and noodle in another room. And when it's not their turn to play, they'll go and test fly different pieces of gear and different amps or different guitars, mix and match and pedals and things like that. Try to have a no excuses environment.
Yeah.
We're always going to have the right mic, or we're always going to have the right tools to accomplish.
So what's the studio called, Joe?
On the Fringe Studios. And why is it called On the Fringe Studios? Because coming up, it's just we were always close but not quite there to greatness.
Yeah.
We were always on the fringe. And then so when we decided to brand our studio, and what do we call the place? We're always on the fringe of things, so it has to be something around like, why not on the fringe?
Yeah,
why not?
It's a great name. I mean, it is what it is, isn't it?
It is.
So how long ago was this when On the Fringe started?
I would say 1994.
Wow, that's a long time.
And then we bought the building in 2003, and then we went about retrofitting it and making it a studio. It was a parking in right the downtown area of my little village that I live in. Being said, we said, okay, geez, so what are we going to do to capture our session musicians? So we said, let's open a music school.
So from the studio, it became a music school.
It was simple to say we're going to be collaborating for a very long time. Well,
so then, how did you get the school? Because it's quite one thing to have a studio that you've been working in for a long time, and so you know what equipment you want, and then to go to a school. I mean, now you're involved in teachers, you're involved in classrooms and musical instruments.
Every instrument, there's a room set up for every particular instrument. There's a piano in every single room. Because most musicians started with the piano, so there's very few people that I don't know their way around the piano. At least be able to find middle C.
Oh yeah,
and go from there. So, but the key was to get my session players captured, give them a place to make a living, and have them in the building. And if I controlled their schedule, I knew where they were going to be and when they were going to be there. Yeah. And all I simply do is go in to take a look at the schedule, who's teaching when, where, and what. I said, okay, I need a violinist, or I need a cello player, or I need a guitarist, or what have you, and I'll look at where they are, and then I'll schedule them.
Yeah.
So I'll just move them from a lesson.
What a great idea. I mean, almost grow your own session then.
Exactly.
Isn't that a cool idea?
But then I quickly realized these were all fabulous musicians, people I had known for years, but that's exactly what they were, musicians, they weren't teachers. So I called a professor that I've known for forever, who was a wonderful professor at Berkeley College of Music in Boston. I said, Les, this is my dilemma.
So was he a professor that taught you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And he still teaches me.
What's his name?
Never done with Professor Les Harris Sr.
Okay.
And he's literally a living legend of jazz. He's played with some of the greats out there, Zoot Sims, Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, I could go on and on. He's just a fabulous musician. But I brought him in to teach my teachers how to
show them how to teach. Because not everyone can teach. I mean, if you've got great musicians, they're all great musicians, but to pass that on and to have the... Because not everyone can teach. I mean, if you've got great musicians, they're all great musicians, but to pass that on and to have the patience to work with it, that's the thing.